Hey everyone, how are you? My name is Dan Robbins. I'm about 23 years into real estate. And over the course of those couple decades, I've read so many books, and been one of those people where I glean information from different books versus just like a student of one philosophy, sales philosophy. So it's kind of like a mixed bag of different things. But one thing I've learned, and I'm really a big proponent of, is first impressions and also face-to-face meetings. And we're going to go through some statistics here that are pretty important. And I think all of us need to be cognizant of as we're going through, whether you're, recruiting to grow your organization, bringing on your own buyers and sellers, coaching your agents on how to build their businesses with buyers and sellers and teaching them how to recruit. Face-to-face meetings are very important. And the first impression that happens from those face-to-face meetings can be quintessential into whether or not those individuals choose to work with you or choose not to work with you. So we'll go through all this and we'll have fun with it. And then if anybody wants to chime in, I'm not going to be looking at the chat bar. So if someone can keep up with the chat bar, and if someone has a question, just throw it in my ear. I have my earpiece in, so I'll be able to hear anything, but I won't be reading the chat bar necessarily. So as we all know, people typically end up working with someone they trust and like, right? So, before they measure a person's professional acumen, they're going to measure whether or not, this is someone that I like and trust. And then after that, they're going to say, okay, does this person know what they're talking about? And you have to pass that first hurdle in order to get to the second hurdle. I'm assuming everyone here has the professional acumen, but maybe out of this class, you can take two or three things away from it that you didn't have before that you might be able to put in your toolbox and help you in that first impression, that first face-to-face encounter. So just to go through some numbers real quick. This is how important face-to-face meetings are over the rest. So this 16%, these numbers represent conversion rates of contact to someone working with you, the average conversion rate, okay? The 16% represents texts and calls. So 16%, if you call or text someone and you're trying to gain rapport through text or call, you have a 16% on average chance of converting that person into a client and or part of your organization, what have you. 20%, it ticks up a little bit. If you manage to get someone on a Zoom, ticks up to 20%. 40%, look at this jump, face-to-face. It is by far, it is 100 to 150% more effective than these first two things. So if you're using texts and calls and Zooms, ultimately you want that to lead to, hey, we're meeting for coffee. Hey, I'm meeting you at your house. Hey, meet me at my office. You want to get that face-to-face, okay? And in that face-to-face, you want to stop talking about yourself and how great you are and how great EXP is and how great the organization is. Stop making the focal point all about you. And trust me, no one has a bigger issue with that than I do. I want to talk about myself all day, all week. I love talking about myself. Love talking about my kids. Love talking about where I went on vacation. I love talking about what my goals are. I love talking about what I've done in the past. But so does everybody else. And in order to gain that rapport and gain that like and trust, we need to allow the person that we're meeting with that we want to do something, whether list with us or become our buyer or whether it's to become our agent or organization, we want them to do the talking. And you do that by asking questions and listening. So we're going to talk a little bit today about the three different types of listening. And then we're also going to get into what are called the Ford questions, which are out of the Ninja Selling book, which we'll get into in a little bit. So just to ask my wife of 25 years, I am not a good listener. I'm a horrible listener. I do not listen well. I never have my whole life. I have severe ADHD. My brain bounces all over the place. I'm a difficult time keeping an organized track of mind, you know. So I need all these notes. I had all these notes in front of me that you guys can't see that are on my left-hand side, keeping me on track even with this conversation. Or my brain will go somewhere else and I'll lose track. And it might actually still happen. So be patient with me. So as you're talking to these clients, potential agents, whatever the person is, and however you're engaged, make sure that they're doing the lion's share of the talking and you're doing the lion's share of the listening. Okay. If you're having lunch, you should be finished your food way before they're finished their food, because they should be talking the whole time about all of their lives and everything there is going on. Okay. Because you're going to be pulling that information out of them and you're going to be taking notes along the way. So 3 levels of listening. I learned this in this executive it was like an executive networking group called I think it was called Vestige, something like that. Anyway, it was years ago, but they had a listening expert come in and kind of coach us on the 3 levels of listening. And one is ignoring, like that. Yeah, I'm sure we've been in this. I've done this in the past, but I've definitely experienced it, where you're talking to someone and they're like looking at their watch, or their phone goes off and they look at their phone, or like they're kind of like, or they're like looking off in the distance and they're like hardly even hearing what you're saying. It's almost like you're getting ignored, right? It's rude. We've all experienced that before, right? And then there's level 2 listening, which is like you're half in, half out. You're kind of like making maybe here and there, like, oh yeah, or like maybe you say yes when yes wasn't even the right answer. I do that all the time, especially where Michelle's concerned. I'm always like, yes. And she's like, you didn't even hear what I said. There's like that. You're trying to, but you're not quite there. And then there's level 3 listening. It's an active listening. It takes the most energy. It takes the most out of us. And that's why it's the most challenging kind of listening, because you're fully engaged with what the person's saying and you are responding with meaningful content, and it's leading to more conversation, more questions, and it's leading to a deeper understanding of who this person is and what their goals are and where they are in their life. This is what we're trying to get to, right? You shouldn't going in saying, hey, I had 54 million in sales last year and I got this, that, and the other thing, and boom, boom. You're going to lose people right out of the gate. Now, at some point, they might ask you what your expertise is. And then you can, I have a bio I send to people when we get, hey, here's my bio. You can read it. If you have any questions, let me know. That kind of a thing. But the last thing I want to do is ever talk about myself. I want to talk about the person I'm with, and I want to get as much information out of that person as possible about what their situation is. And you do that by level 3 active listening. And it takes practice. It's not something, it definitely doesn't come naturally to me. It's something I've worked on and I've gotten better at, and I keep trying to get better at it as my life goes on. Not just professionally, but on a personal level. Real quick here too. So the 16% text calls, 20% Zoom, 40% face-to-face. So 100 to 150% more effective is face-to-face, right? Look at this. Nearly 100% of people say that face-to-face meetings are essential for long-term business relationships. So nearly 100% of professional people say that face-to-face are essential. Okay. So, I mean, you don't have to take it any further than that, right? 72% of people say their impressions are impacted by how someone appears. And believe it or not, their handshake and their ability to listen to the wants and needs that person is trying to solve, or whatever their issue is, or whatever situation they're in. So that's appearance, handshake, and listening are the 3 things you need to focus on in those initial meetings. By the way, smiling doesn't hurt, I don't know. Hope you guys, usually when someone smiles, it kind of disarms you a little bit. Maybe that's more basic than I need to get here. So stop talking about yourself and start asking forward questions. Okay, so this is out of Ninja Selling. If you guys have ever read it, if you've never read it, Ninja Selling is awesome. It's applicable in a lot of different directions. Ninja Selling is real estate related for real estate sales. You can take this information in there. You can apply it to recruiting and growing. You can apply it in just about any direction you want as far as sales is concerned. But the author talks a lot about the forward questions. Okay, you want to ask about family. You want to ask about occupation. You want to ask about recreation, and then the dreams is the D of the forward dreams, which means you can put goals in there, right? So you want to ask about family. You want to know someone. You want to take notes as you're asking these questions, right? Because you're going to be following up. So family, kids, obviously, spouses, where are they in their lives? If I'm dealing with first-time home buyers, usually they just got married or they just had a kid and they're outgrowing, if I'm dealing with an agent, where are they at in their family? Do they have parents that they're trying to take care of? Are they trying to build something that's going to help their family be more successful down the road? Where are they in their lives and their careers? Occupation, where are they in their careers? Just immediate segue there. Obviously, when we're talking to agents, we're going to be very engaged in their occupation. Hopefully, you've done a little bit of homework by the time you're meeting agents and you understand like what their level of productivity is, and then how you can augment that and help them out and help them grow. Recreation, obviously, remember, these are all questions you're asking. You want to hear about their family. You want to hear about their occupation. You want to hear about their recreation, vacations. Where did they go this summer? These are all things that people love to talk about. And this is how you gain that trust and rapport. And then again, the professional acumen comes later. But once you get that trust and rapport, things go in a much smoother direction in every other way. And then ultimately dreams or goals, for me, this is probably the most important thing, is the goals, right? You want to figure out what the person you're talking to is trying to achieve so that you can develop the solutions to those, or whatever help or solution to get them to achieve their goals, right? Like, so if you're sitting down with an agent and they were closed 6 million last year and they want to close 10 million next year, you want to be prepared to be able to bring your professional acumen to the table and help them with that in order to bring them over, in order to let them know like this is the right direction you're going. Buyers and sellers, what are you looking for? Everybody knows, we all know that. We're all experienced agents at this point, or at least most of us are. So, buyers is easy, sellers is relatively easy depending on the situation. But agents is something different, and agents are all at different, levels and different. They're all trying to achieve different things depending on where they are. They could be like a newer, younger agent that's looking to be successful. They could be, I've talked to agents who were like, Dan, I close 12 to 15 deals a year, and that's it. I don't want to close anymore. This is just where I want to be. How can you help me just sustain this level of productivity? So agents' goals differ depending on who you're talking to and what it's about. And then when you're asking these forward questions, family, occupation, recreation, dreams, parentheses, goals, use that level 3 listening to engage and take notes. Okay? You want to engage and take notes. So as you're asking about the family, make sure you're taking notes on what their children's names are, ages of the children, what they, as you're talking about their occupation, you're talking about, what they've done in their career. What are they proud about? What are they most, where are they in their minds about where they've been, and then ultimately where they want to go with goals. Recreation, what do they like? What are their hobbies? What do they like to do in their personal time? This is great when you get into the recreation end too. It's very helpful when you're like, if you want to try to buy a gift for someone, buying gifts for people is very, very challenging. But if you know what their hobbies are, if you dig into the recreation component, that can really be helpful for gifting, just so you know. And then dreams and goals, obviously, like you want to take copious notes on anything they're trying to achieve so that you can bring your professionals in the table to match that. Does anybody have any questions or input so far? Has anybody read Ninja Selling and has experience with it? What was your experience with it, Kim?
Um, I I like it a lot just because it's my personal style. I like the way that it's about developing relationships.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean it has a lot of good points. I think I don't know, I just think the whole book in general has a lot of information that it kind of gets you back to basics on selling because I'm not a natural salesperson, so
Well, yeah, neither is the author, right?
right.
Right. He talks about his life. If he had these horrible medical conditions when he was a child, he was basically kind of an outcast, kind of like a shut-in, kind of like a the guy's in Larry Kendall. He has a very interesting life, and he started out with I forget what he struggled with early on, but it made him so that he became kind of like a recluse. Like wasn't very outgoing at all, but he learned to teach and train himself to be so. And listen, at the end of the day, I mean, even the most outgoing, extroverted among us likes to sit on the couch and watch an Eagles game, and like be in our most comfortable zones where we have so all of us have to get into the uncomfortable zone in order to achieve these types of things. And that's what this is about. This is about understanding what we're trying to achieve so that it makes those uncomfortable moments a little bit more palatable, you know? And if you go in with, if you read a book like Ninja Selling, it can help you do that. And listening is such a huge component to this. I mean, yeah, Kelly, how yeah, I've definitely developed and gotten better at listening over time, right? You've known me for years.
I would say yes, 1,000%. I think, well, we read Ninja Selling at the same time too, so it was easy
That's
for us to
true.
kind of bounce off of each other with what we were learning and what we were reading and hearing.
No, that's true. And we did a book club in our office, and we have to reignite that going into the first
Yeah.
quarter too,
I
because
think of all the books we've
it's
read, that one has been the most just in relationships in general, period. Like
yeah,
you just learn how to create genuine connections. And I think I'm also not a natural born salesperson, but when you come off genuine and actually have some type of, it builds like a trust that people don't feel like you're just trying to sell them on the first property.
right. And I gotta say, there's one surefire way to appear genuine, and it's to be genuine, you know? Like be genuine, genuinely care and genuinely ask questions of people. And the you will be in front of mind of that person for forever if you do it the right way. Like they'll if you will like give them the space to speak about their lives, give them the space to speak to their experiences, they're going to remember you, and it's going to if you have any shot at all, you're going to end up capturing that person as a client, as an agent, whatever the case may be, or you're going to have a much better percentage at doing it anyway, you know. And then does anybody else have anything they want to chime in with while
Yeah,
we're
I
on
was
this?
yeah, I was gonna say I agree with you say about paying attention to the recreation, things like that.
Yes.
Um, Back last April, I closed on a home for my buyer. And in showing homes, I noticed the gentleman liked fishing because of a comment he made when he noticed fishing poles in a garage. So
There you
at
go.
closing, I part of the gift, I put a pocket fisherman in there.
Oh, cool.
And not only it generated laughter at closing, but then 2 days ago, I got a text saying I just used the pocket fisherman for the first time.
Oh,
Thank you,
that's
Ivy.
awesome. Oh, that's great. And you can kind of keep in touch with that person now because, like, let's say you're on social media and you see a funny reel about fishing. You can send it to them. You know what I mean? It gives you like this little tie in to someone that you didn't have because you had your ears open, which is great. I remember on the negative side, I got referred this elderly woman. She was trying to sell her house. She wanted to list her house. It was a referral, like a direct referral from someone that knew me. I go, I meet her, and I just went in this like, this is how great I am. This is how much we're going to get for your house. We're going to stage it. We're going to photo. We're going to this, that. I walked out of there. I was like, all right, I got that in the bag. The next day, the person that referred me called me because he was a commercial agent. And he was like, she listed with somebody else. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah. I was like, what did she say? He said, she said that she just wanted to sell her house quickly and quietly and just wanted it gone. And like you went into like this whole thing where you had like a stager coming through. Literally, by not listening to this woman, I just talking about myself and all the great things me and my team were going to do for her. It made her nervous to use us because she just wanted to sell it and be done with it. She was old. She wanted to go into the next phase of her life. You see? So if I would have just asked the forward questions about what her dreams, what her goals were, and she said, you know, Dan, if I would have just asked her, what is the best scenario for you look like for you? And she would have said, I just want to like get this thing on the market, get it sold, you know, as quickly and quietly, like just get it done, and I want to move on. First of all, I save money on staging, professional, like all of the hoopla I go through for all of our listings wouldn't all of a sudden be gone. It would have been a much easier transaction for myself, and I would have actually gotten the business. You know, another example I have is I was helping a dear friend move, and I had her townhouse under contract. She was buying this little rancher because she didn't want to be attached anymore. This is years ago. Out of nowhere, she calls me and she's in tears. This is a person I've known forever. She's crying her eyes out. And I was like, what is going on? She said, I don't want to move anymore. Take my house off the market. Her house is already under contract. I was like, this is already done, you know? So, but immediately it made me think, wow, I'm doing this so much. I'm in and out of this, moving people, and I'm not listening. I'm not picking up on the cues that are being laid out by my clients as I'm just, all of us go through the contracts and this, that we're helping people move so often and so frequently that we're losing sight of the human beings that are involved in this process because we're not listening to what's happening. We're not paying attention to what's happening. And she's still my friend, and she ended up moving, and I talked her down and everything was fine. But it blew my mind that she was so upset. I had no idea because I wasn't listening. Does anybody else have any examples of that where they like, if they would have listened a little bit better, they would have succeeded where they had a challenge?
Yeah, and if I may, one thing I'd like to bring up, I know it's not based off first impressions, but in a way it is. With ninja selling, we went deep into how after a first transaction, the percentage of agents that don't use their same agent in the following transaction is so low because people lose touch and they never reach back out.
Yeah, and that's one of the action items I hear, Brendan. That's a really good point. Always keep in touch. There are three things that, and it's part of the action items I'm going to lay out at the end of this. And then I'll send this to Kristen and she'll send it. I have this whole outline made. You guys can read through it. And there's a nice little action item list at the end. But, you know, keeping in touch with people is a part of our job. And whether you're bringing an agent to your organization or working with buyers and sellers, if you're not keeping in touch with everybody, you're going to turn around and they're going to join another company. They're going to leave where you are and go somewhere else, or they're going to work with somebody else as their agent. It happens all the time. It drives you nuts. And it's one of those things where you have to touch. For me, I had to touch the frying pan 10 times until I figured it out. I was like a little kid that couldn't understand why people that didn't remember how fantastic I was and come back no matter what, even though I hadn't talked to them for 10 years, you know? And it blew my mind that someone would remember who I was. But at the end of the day, everybody has their own amazing lives going on that I was not in tune with, and someone else became in tune with it. And then I was on the outside looking in. Go ahead, Kel.
I was just gonna say, as you know me well enough to know like I'm not great at letting go of control. So when I hired a transaction coordinator, I made sure one of my biggest things was to say thank you to the client at the end and make sure that it was written from myself and her. And then I ended up getting a feedback from one in particular client who was like, that was the most disingenuous thank you. It was so obviously part of the transaction and not personal enough. So that when I sent her a text message of her neighbor's house that was listed $100,000 higher than hers, but was pretty high. She was like, "So you didn't get me enough money." Like she had been holding on to that like frustration that I didn't text her personally or go that extra mile instead of like I did send the email. The email was sent, but I think clients and consumers they know what's almost generated and so typical and just a template that if you don't add like a little piece of that personal touch to it, whether it's because you're busy or it's a template and you think it's a
Yeah,
thing, you lose them completely. You really can lose
100%.
people
And
completely.
I remember I had a client appreciation event and I just went back into my catalog and I reached back to these people I helped buy a house, their first home in Delaware County. And he came back with like, you know, we can't believe you haven't stayed in touch with us all these years. And like
Yeah.
now you're inviting me to this client appreciation event. Like it just seemed like a half-hearted thing to do. And why didn't you stay in touch? You know?
Yeah.
And here I am thinking like, well, you're right. He's right. These people are right, by the way. Everyone like we need to make sure we're doing a better job at making people feel human and making people feel listened to. At the end of the day, they just want to be listened to. They want to be listened to in a way where you're paying attention. You know, it's a
It's just
different, you know,
the whole ninja selling doesn't stop at settlement. I think is like when you get
right.
that feedback, it's constructive feedback. You have to kind of say whether you fully agree with it or not, or they are, a problem client. It's one of those things where it's just kind of like, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't listen to you. Like I wasn't, or I wasn't being, it just doesn't stop at the end of the transaction. It needs to go carry through. And it was a little bit of an eye opener for me because,
No, that's cool.
it was
And
tough.
then you know the sincerity bit is tough, right? Because it's kind of like you feel like how can I be sincere in so many different directions? But there's a methodology to it that actually Larry Kendall lays out in Ninja Selling really, really well about how to stay in touch with people. And also he talks about how to reignite relationships that are cold and how to do it in a way that's meaningful and tasteful, which is a fantastic book. Um, all right, so let's move on real quick to some action items that we can use here. So I would challenge everyone to set 5 face-to-face meetings. I'm going to do it too per week. I do this anyway. I'm like face-to-face. I'm coffee, lunch, coffee, lunch. Like right now, I have one coffee left. It's Friday morning. I think that's going away. Almost all my lunches are spoken for. And then I try to do less happy hours now that I'm 50. I'm trying to like stay away from the happy hour. But once in a while, a happy hour is good. The happy hours are kind of cool because you can do it with like more than just one-on-one. You can do like groups of people, which can be really effective. But I would encourage everyone to set 5 face-to-face meetings per week with prospects, past clients, agents that you're looking to gain a relationship with. Use the Ford questions. Let the prospect own the conversation. Let them own the conversation. Stop talking about yourself and use the Ford questions and let them own it. Use the level 3 listening to engage and take notes. And that might be like if you're in a happy hour, like register some things, kind of like whoever's talking about the fishing rod. I didn't get your name, but like let it register. You probably didn't take it your notepad and be like, oh, Fisher, you just kind of noted it. But then at some point you want to note it, maybe right after the happy hour or like when you go use the restroom or something, take some notes so you can keep track of things. And then always these 3 things, my whole career, follow up, follow through, and keep in touch. Like you just have to do these things. It's part of our job. Follow up. The first builder I ever worked with, Kelly knows Fran Akabuchi. He said to me after I was probably working with him for like 4 or 5 months, and he said, "Dan, you know what's different about you than other agents I work with?" He's like, I was like, "What?" He was like, "You always like say you're going to do something and then you do it. Like you actually do the stuff that's coming out of your mouth. You follow up, you say something and then something happens from what you spoke about. He said, that's a really rare thing, not just as agents, but as people. You can differentiate yourself just by following up. And then follow through is the action that comes after the follow up. Following through is like the business of the the meat and potatoes, and then the keeping in touch is obviously. I used to call that kidding back in the day. Keep in touch, keep in touch. Like it's like I had it on my whiteboard. It's like a cycle of life I would have on my board. Follow up, follow through, keep in touch. Follow up, follow through, keep in touch.
Just to piggyback on Dan, because one of the things that like I think I learned from you over the course of a decade-ish, is also I think as agents, we're so hard on ourselves of like, okay, I'll get back to you like tonight. And then if that doesn't happen, you've already kind of fractured that trust. It's setting the proper expectations. Like I would watch you say, hey, I'll get back to you. Probably won't be today. It might be, by the end of the day, Wednesday or something like that, just to set
Yeah,
that proper expectations. Because then if you beat that and you do find the time to get back, Monday night, 7 or 8 o'clock at night, if you have that time, then great, you've exceeded the expectation that you set. But really setting those proper expectations too, I think was something that like from starting this business as a single person without any real responsibilities to now having two children who have extracurricular activities, and making sure that I don't put myself in a position where I'm not spending any time with my kids and I'm just responding and meeting those expectations so that I can keep my client relationships going.
sure. And life will take over life makes, first of all, days go by in seconds, weeks go by in minutes, months go by in hours. I mean, this is like life is moving at the speed of life, which is very, very fast, right? And we're like, and by the way, Kel, I miss my marks all the time. But one thing I've gotten better at too is hopefully I remember just in the nick of time to someone a text at 8:30 at night saying, I didn't forget about you. I'm working on that. I ran out of minutes today. And that's a very meaningful thing. But then also, if I do miss it, not beating myself up too hard, going back, eating crow, and apologizing and
A
saying, hey,
hundred
listen,
percent.
I told you I was going to have it to you yesterday, and I'm so sorry I didn't do that. That goes such a long way with people. You'd be shocked. Even if everyone knows that people make mistakes, apologize and move forward and then follow up and follow through. So, you set these deadlines. Hopefully you can nip it in the bud before the deadline expires if you can't make it, to let them know, hey, I haven't forgotten about you. People know that you're busy, but the worst thing that they'll think is like, oh, I must have just fallen off their plate. I must not be
Yeah.
that as important to them because now so that's huge.
You have to
So yeah,
apologize for the things you can control, which is that, but then not over apologize for things you can't control, like the market or somebody's house not selling because it was, however they wanted to price it. That for me was a big learning curve too, of like over apologizing for things that I had absolutely no control over. Just showed like my lack of confidence.
yeah, and that comes with professional experience and all that. Like you get better at that stuff as you go along, and then it plays right into like setting expectations too. If you set unrealistic expectations for your clients, I'm never guaranteeing anything. I'm like, listen, this is what our goals are. This is what we're trying to achieve. If we achieve them, this will happen. If we don't achieve them, then this will be our plan. So I'm
Right.
already setting the stage for the chance that we're not going to achieve our goals. Like we don't always achieve our goals, and then therefore we have to have a plan B already in place. But yeah, I agree 100%. I think sometimes, and what's happened to me in my career is like so much time will go by because my life goes so fast that then I'll be like, oh, I'm embarrassed to reach out to these people now. And that's a trap in our own mind that we get into. Never try your best to avoid that trap. Don't try to predict what someone else is thinking. Pretend everybody's really happy all the time and approach life like that. And I know that's not the case, but and then if someone's unhappy or angry or upset, just remember that you don't know what's going on in that person's life, and try to be empathetic to the point of exaggeration or hyperbole. Like was The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People is one of my favorite books of all time, and really the foundation of all these other books written by Steve Covey. But he talks about this time he was on this train, and if you've heard me say this story before, I apologize, but he was on this train, and these three young kids were running around, like tearing newspapers out of people's hands, and like they're just causing havoc on this compartment of this train headed out of New York. And their father was just kind of like sitting there, not doing anything. And the kids were like going bananas. Finally, after this keeps going, Steve Covey's like, "Hey, man, would you mind getting your kids under control?" To the father, like they're causing havoc. And the guy looks up at him and says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Their mother just passed. We were coming home from the hospital, and I don't know what to do." And then all of a sudden, Steve Covey's sitting here like his anger and his frustration turned into this whole like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. What can I do for you? And how can I help you?" So you never know what's going on behind the scene of someone's situation. So try to be as patient as you can with people. Be patient with yourself. I would encourage you. I always like to follow classes with action items. So again, set 5 to face-to-face meetings per week. Use the Ford questions. Use level 3 listening to engage and take notes. Taking notes is important because after that, you're going to follow up, follow through, and keep in touch. And those notes you take from those Ford questions you asked are going to really help you in the follow up, follow through, and keep in touch. All right. Well, that about wraps up the class. I think I'm running early, so we can have like an open discussion for a couple minutes. Does anybody have anything to add, or maybe some constructive criticism for me, giving my first Zoom class?
Hey,
You know
Dan.
what? Go
I was,
ahead, Dan.
I'll say I have a question. I mean, it's a little not off topic, but it's kind of unrelated. So I was going to wait to see if anyone had a very specific question. But I have like a general question I was kind of thinking about. And I know I haven't met a lot of people here, but I'm a little newer to this process, so open to everyone's thoughts. But
Question.
um, um, what was that? Oh, but then I was gonna say, when going to like social settings and social events, how do you like position yourself to like get new clients almost? Like how do you in an event where it's not designed to be networking, like I was gonna go to like a neighborhood party, how do you talk to
Yeah.
new people with coming across genuine, but also letting them know you're in the business? Like
Right.
that was
Well,
something
you don't, Dan. The answer is you don't let them know you're in the business. Okay.
yeah,
What you do is you listen. First of all, you prepare. Okay.
yeah,
So if you're going to a neighborhood barbecue, for instance, and you're going to a specific neighborhood with that, and do some research on that neighborhood.
yeah,
Do some research on that. Like, is the school district, what's their absorption rate for the inventory there? What's the average sale price? What
mhm,
homes have recently sold like the last year in that neighborhood? And just have some like baseline
yeah,
factual information in your pocket. But don't go just talking about it.
yeah,
Just have it there.
yeah, yeah,
Ultimately, what will happen is, and usually what will happen is when you're talking with people, you're going to be using these Ford questions, asking people about their families, asking people about their occupations, asking them about their recreation and their dreams and goals. You're going to be asking them questions. Those questions will lead to questions in return.
yeah. Okay.
Those people will say, "What are you doing?" And you'll be like, "Oh, well, I just made this big move
Hmm.
and I'm super excited about it. And, getting into real estate." Da, da, da. And then what will happen is, and everyone here that's an experienced agent will back me up on this, they'll ask you how the marketplace is.
Yeah.
And your answer to that is, well, it depends on where you're at. I mean,
Right.
this neighborhood, for instance, the last couple sales have been in like the $800,000 range or whatever. Like you're going
Yeah.
to have information all of a sudden that you just looked up,
Yeah.
but
Right.
you're going to come across looking like a super expert, right?
Yeah. Right. You know what you're doing.
Like, dude, Dan knew
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
exactly what's happening in his neighborhood, but
Yeah.
you're not leading with that. You're
Hmm.
following up with that after you've already engaged. The rapports have been set. The table's been set already. Now they're asking you questions, And now you can answer with authority because you've done a little bit of homework,
Right.
you know?
Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
No problem. That's a really good question, though. No one likes anyone spouting out information about what they're doing and trying to capture or grow their business in a social situation. It's annoying, right? It's like
Right.
it's annoying. Like you don't want someone like I'm having a
Yeah.
barbecue and like you're trying to like I don't know sell whatever the case may be. No one likes that.
Yeah.
But if you're asking forward questions, which are great questions about someone's family, about what they're doing in their life, what their vacation, what are they doing this holiday season? Are they traveling? Are they going to visit? And then hey, then dreams and goals might come later. You know what I mean? Like it might come like after you're talking about real estate. Be like, why are you thinking about? Why are you asking about the market? Is there something in particular, or are you just like,
Right.
then it kind of leads into that direction.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
So it's like it kind of has to happen naturally. If you put it, and this, Dan, this is going to take practice. You're going to have to sharpen this, keep sharpening this saw. But if you try to force that situation, you'll do more harm than good.
Right.
You know?
Do you want
Be
to come
funny, man. People like humor.
Yeah.
Be funny. Be the person people like,
Mhm.
without being stupid, be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Might not want to drink that fourth beer. Limit it to 3 beers,
Right.
Keep your head on your shoulders,
Right.
And trust me, anyone that knows me and when I was younger would laugh at me for saying that. So, yeah. So like, no one wants you to. Don't lead with the real estate thing. Let the real estate thing come naturally, and you do that by asking questions. Those questions lead to other questions, which will circle back. Let's go right through these real quick to just finalize this because I think I'm a big percentage guy. I'm a guy that I believe in numbers. I think that numbers give us guidance in how we should approach growing a business, right? Where should I be allocating most of my time resource, right? Should I be focused on this? I say yes, only if it leads to this, right? The text and call should lead to this. And then this is where I want to put all as much energy as I possibly can. Because it's 100 to 150% more effective than these two. And then remember, nearly 100% of people say face-to-face is meaningful for long-term business relationships. I mean, that's why all of us should be having coffee. We should never be having coffee alone. We should never be having lunch alone. We should be having coffees and lunches and occasional happy hours with our peers and our friends and whatever. We should be engaged in our communities in a level that's more meaningful. Hopefully you guys got some stuff out of this. Action items, 5 face-to-face meetings per week. Use the forward questions, take notes. Level 3 listening to engage and take notes, and then always follow up, follow through, and keep in touch. I have got to, I'll just about, unless someone has some, I have like 4 or 5 more minutes actually. Does anybody else have anything else we'll throw in? Oh, let me look at my chats. Oh yeah, here Dawn chatted. Listen to hear, not to respond. Yeah, that's so Larry Kendall gets into this, and I think Steve Covey too. You listen, I think it's 4 times faster than someone can speak. So your brain can receive information 4 times faster than it can output. So when someone's talking to you, your brain's like, and it's chewing on all this information, right? And it wants to be like, oh, here's my answer I'm preparing, instead of listening and not creating your response, which can lead to you interrupting someone in the middle of what they're talking about, which I'm a huge, I'm guilty as charged on interrupting people when they're talking. Like you want to try to avoid that. So that's really good. Oh, Kelly, Kelly posted the Ninja Selling link. Is that what that is, Kel? Nice.
Yeah, it's from Amazon. You can either do it on like your download it to your Kindle or your make an audiobook or get like the actual hardback.
Yeah, and
It's
let me
probably
tell you
cheaper
something.
in paperback.
Yeah, probably. I would think. But Ninja Selling gets into details. Like it'll like this is mailers. This is like it gives you examples of the most successful professionals in the business and how they go about their business in a detailed fashion. Like almost too detailed where you're like, oh, I got to do all that. In any case, it's very valuable. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, guys. Appreciate y'all and
Thanks, Dan.
have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank
Have a great
you.
day.